You may have heard that you can talk to God, but is it really possible? Today, I want to share with you how you can have a real conversation with the divine, where you speak, and He responds. In my experience, God is not distant or silent. He is ever present, waiting for us to reach out. Many great saints and yogis have shown us that talking with God is not just a spiritual idea. It's a living reality. It's not just for a few special people, but for anyone who is ready to open their heart. I've had the privilege of being in the presence of those who converse with God. And the beautiful truth is, you can also communicate with the divine, not in a one-sided conversation, but in a real exchange of love and guidance. We often think of prayer as simply telling God our desires or seeking blessings, but talking to God is so much deeper. It's about having a relationship with the divine, one that is built on love, trust, and seeking truth. Now, why should we doubt this possibility? The scriptures of every tradition speak of people talking to God and receiving answers. Take the story of King Solomon in the Bible, for example. In 1 Kings 3:5-13, God appeared to Solomon in a dream and asked, "What do you want?" Solomon asked for wisdom, not wealth or power. And God granted him wisdom, along with the riches and honor he didn't ask for. Solomon's pure heart and selfless request opened the door to God's reply. Then there's David, another figure from the Bible, who also communicated with God. He asked God, "Shall I go up against my enemies?" And God replied, "Go, and I will deliver them into your hands." Even in the most practical matters, God is ready to converse. This shows that God is not just a distant force in the universe. He is deeply involved in our lives and desires to guide us if we are willing to ask. So, how can we speak to God and expect a response? How do we get God's attention and ensure we hear back from Him? This is the essence of the teaching. The first thing to understand is that God is moved by love. Many people pray with their minds, but without deep feeling. Their prayers are often filled with words, but lack the heartfelt devotion that truly touches the divine. God responds to the sincere prayer of the heart, not just the words. Your communication with God must be from the heart, as if speaking to a beloved father or mother. This is the key. God is not some abstract idea or force in the universe. He is a living presence, waiting for you to open your heart to Him. The more pure and focused your love is, the more you will experience His response. God is not like a person you can simply converse with in a casual way. He is divine, and yet, He desires to communicate with us. To speak with God, we must approach Him with respect and devotion. When we do this, we create the space for Him to speak to us in return. God is always listening, but it is our own inner state, our ability to quiet the mind and open the heart, that allows us to hear Him. To talk to God, you must demand a reply, not in doubt, but with certainty and devotion. If your prayer is filled with love, confidence, and a sense of closeness, the divine will respond. This is not about asking for material things, but about seeking the divine presence itself. When you call out to God, do so with a clear and unwavering intention. Ask and believe that God will answer, but always ask for what is best for you and your spiritual growth, not just worldly desires. God knows what we truly need, even before we ask. When you pray for wisdom, for guidance, for love, He will give it to you. The most important thing to understand is that God does not want us to ask for things for the sake of it. When we ask for material things, or when our requests are motivated by selfish desires, it blocks the flow of divine grace. But when we ask with a pure heart, God is pleased. Ask not for things, but for God's presence, and He will respond. In my own life, I've experienced God's voice. One early morning as a child, I asked, "What is behind the darkness of my closed eyes?" I was meditating, and I wanted to understand what was beyond the physical realm. Suddenly, I felt a light within me, so bright and pure that I was overwhelmed. It was as if the entire universe had opened up in that moment, and the response was clear. God's presence is not somewhere out there. It is right within you, always. This experience was one of many that have shown me that God is not distant. He is here, in this very moment, waiting for you to ask for His presence. But it's not always easy to hear God's voice, especially at first. We live in a world that is full of distractions, and our minds are constantly active. The first step in learning to communicate with God is learning to quiet the mind. Meditation, prayer, and concentration are essential tools for this. Or it is through focused concentration, especially on the point between the eyebrows, the third eye, that we begin to hear God's voice. This is the point where the divine light resides, and through it, God communicates with us. God will test you to see if you truly desire Him, and not just His gifts. You must be steadfast, with your heart purely seeking God. He will challenge you to see how much you truly want His presence, not just the things He can provide. This is why it's important to approach God with love and devotion, without selfish desires clouding your heart. Remember, God does not need anything from us, except for our love. The love we offer is the one thing He cannot take from us unless we choose to give it freely. This is the gift of love, given to us, to offer back to God. As you develop spiritually, the more open your heart becomes to God's presence, the more you will experience the divine in your life. God will respond in ways you cannot imagine. The answers you seek will come to you in the form of inner guidance, feelings of peace, visions, and even through other people. This is God speaking to you, guiding you along your path. Talking with God is not just about asking for answers. It's about building a relationship. It's about creating a channel of communication with the divine that transcends words, transcends the mind. It is in the silence, in the stillness, that we can hear God's response. God is always near, always ready to speak with you. You just need to open your heart and ask. Speak to God with love, ask with sincerity, and trust that He will answer you. You may not always hear a clear voice, but His guidance will come in ways that touch your heart, leading you forward on your spiritual journey. So, seek God with all your heart. Speak with Him through love. Be confident that He hears you. And in time, you will experience the divine presence that is always there, waiting for you to notice. Thank you for listening. May you find peace in your conversation with the divine. May you feel God's presence in every moment of your life. And may you be blessed with the love and guidance that you seek.